What if I told you that you are not a noun but a verb, a process, a story being told? And the most important question isn't who you are, but what story are you living? We believe our lives are a sequence of random events. We think our thoughts are spontaneous, our feelings are our own. But what if they are not? What if beneath the surface of your daily life an invisible script is running? A narrative architecture that dictates your choices, shapes your beliefs, and predicts your failures. This script was handed to you the moment you learned to speak. It was coded into the nursery rhymes you heard, the cautionary tales you were told, the very grammar of your thoughts. It's the ghost in your machine, the author of your fate, who you've never met. But this isn't a story about being a puppet. It's about discovering the strings. What we're about to explore isn't just a philosophy, it's the lost art of the myth maker. It's a key to finding the author's room within your own mind, picking up the pen and writing a new chapter, a new ending, a new you. We say, I think, I feel, I am. But have you ever stopped to hunt for this I? If you search within the labyrinth of your own mind, you won't find a king on a throne, a central command module called the self. You find memories, impulses, voices. You find fragments of stories. The philosopher Ernst Cassirer pointed out a fundamental truth we often overlook. Human beings don't live in a merely physical universe. We live within a symbolic universe. Language, myth, art, and religion are the threads of this symbolic web. We don't see the world in its raw, unfiltered state. We see the story we tell ourselves about the world. Imagine your mind not as a computer, but as a vast, ancient theater. On its stage, a play is constantly unfolding. You believe you are the one watching the play, a detached observer. But the great illusion is this: you are the lead actor, and you've been on stage for so long, you've forgotten that the role you're playing isn't the real you. You've mistaken the mask for your face. This play has a genre. For some, it's a tragedy, a repeating cycle of loss and heroic struggle. For others, it's a comedy of errors, stumbling from one absurd situation to another. And for many, it's a drama of quiet desperation, a script of what-ifs and should-have-beens. The question is, who wrote the script you're performing? And more importantly, does it have to be your only role? These fragments of stories, these voices in the mind's theater, they are not your own original work. Think of your unconscious as a vast library, but you didn't curate the initial collection. The first books were placed on the shelves by your family, your culture, your education. Each one a pre-written script. This is how the world works. This is what love is. This is what you are capable of. We spend years, even decades, believing this inherited library is the sum of all knowledge, never realizing we can check out a different book, or better yet, write our own. This is the power of Cassirer's symbolic web. It's so pervasive we forget it's there at all. Consider the concept of money. It is nothing more than paper, metal, or digital bits. It has no inherent reality. Yet this shared story, this collective spell woven from language, builds empires and brings them to ruin. We don't act based on the physical reality of the paper. We act based on the meaning we have all agreed to project onto it. We live, breathe, and die inside a story. The philosopher Susanne K. Langer went deeper. She proposed that language has two faces. The first is discursive language, the language of science, of labels, of lists. It points at things. This is a tree, that is a chair, but there is another, far more powerful form, presentational language, the language of myth, of ritual, of dreams. This language doesn't just point at the world, it creates a world. It presents a feeling, a reality, an entire universe of meaning in a single image or story. The play unfolding in the theater of your mind is written in this second language. It's not a logical argument you can easily debunk. It's a living myth, and that is why we are so trapped. We are trying to use the language of labels to argue with the language of creation. We're standing in the audience, shouting logical notes at the actors, not realizing the entire play is a dream from which we must first awaken. This idea that we are beings woven from stories is not a modern psychological insight. It is an ancient, hidden truth, whispered in the corridors of mystery schools and etched into the symbolism of forgotten traditions. The alchemists of old spoke of it in their coded language. Their great work, the famous transformation of lead into gold, was never about metallurgy. It was a grand metaphor for the soul. The lead was the heavy, dull, inherited story, the deterministic script of your past. The gold was the luminous, incorruptible story of your true potential. And the agent of this transformation, the famed philosopher's stone, was the conscious use of language and symbol to dissolve the old narrative and coagulate a new one. Solva et coagula. Carl Jung rediscovered this map in the 20th century. He called these universal story patterns archetypes, the primal blueprints of the soul residing in a collective unconscious. The sage, the orphan, the trickster, the king, these are not just characters in fiction. They are living energies within you, the gods and demons battling for control of your personal myth. You don't just have ideas. Jung suggested that ideas, these living stories, have you. The mythologist Joseph Campbell tracked these patterns across the globe, through every civilization. He found that the most powerful stories, the ones that awaken and transform us, all share a fundamental structure: the hero's journey. This isn't merely a template for Hollywood scripts. It is the soul's natural archetypal path to individuation, the call to adventure, the refusal of the call, the meeting with the mentor, the journey into the abyss. This is the universal grammar of becoming. These traditions all point to the same revelation. Picture Plato's famous cave, not as a place of stone, but as the inside of your own skull. The shadows dancing on the wall are not cast by fire, but by words. They are the stories you've accepted as reality. The journey out of the cave is not a physical one. It is the act of turning your attention away from the shadow play of your inherited script and toward the light of a self-authored narrative. The maps have been there all along. Now we learn how to read them. And what is the language of these maps? It is the language of symbols, yes, but more fundamentally, it is the language of structure. The literary scholar Northrop Frye provided the missing key, an anatomy of fate. He saw that all the stories in the world fall into one of four primal patterns, mirroring the cosmic seasons of the soul. There is the upward pull of comedy, the story of integration, spring, and the birth of a new society, often ending in a wedding or a feast. Then there is the quest of romance, the high adventure of summer, the hero's triumphant journey through a world of marvels. But there is also the inevitable downward slide of tragedy, the story of autumn, of the hero's isolation and fall from a great height. And finally, there is the bleak landscape of irony, the story of winter, where the hero is powerless, trapped in a meaningless and absurd world. These are not just literary genres, they are gravitational fields of narrative. We fall into them. The language we use, the way we frame our past and predict our future, reveals the story we are unconsciously living. When we say, "It's just my luck," we are speaking the language of irony. When we say, "If only I hadn't made that one mistake," we are living the script of tragedy. This is the ultimate secret the sources reveal. We are always inside a story. There is no neutral ground. For the animal symbolicum, as Cassirer called us, existence is narration. The question is not if you are following a script, but which one. To be unconscious of the script is to be its prisoner. To become aware of it is the first, terrifying, exhilarating step toward freedom. So how does one change the genre of their soul's story? How do you move from the bleak winter of irony to the vibrant summer of romance? It requires more than just positive thinking. It requires learning the practical craft of the soul's author. So the stage is set, the inherited scripts are identified. How do we, as conscious authors, begin the great work of rewriting our own myth? It is not a single grand act of will. It is a craft, learned through a set of practical, repeatable tools. Here is the first tool. Become an archaeologist of your own language. This means listening, truly listening, to the words and phrases you repeat on autopilot every single day. They are the linguistic fossils that reveal the skeleton of your hidden story. Think about the phrases you use. Do you find yourself saying, "Yo, I always mess this up," or "nothing ever works out for me"? This is the lexicon of Northrop Frye's irony or tragedy, a script where the hero is doomed to fail. Or maybe your phrase is, "I have to go to work. I have to deal with this." This is the language of a prisoner, not a protagonist. The practice here is not to judge or immediately correct yourself. It is simply to observe. For 1 week, become a hunter of your own words. Keep a small journal or a note on your phone. When you catch one of these recurring phrases, just write it down. The goal is to make the invisible visible. To see the bars of the cage is the first step to dismantling it. Here is the second tool. Separate the chronicle from the narrative. This is a crucial distinction. A chronicle is a simple, neutral list of events. The relationship ended. I lost my job. I moved to a new city. It is the what. A narrative, however, is the story you weave around those facts. The relationship ended because I'm unlovable. I lost my job because I'm a failure. I moved to a new city to run away from my problems. That narrative is your creation. It is the tragic or ironic meaning you have projected onto the neutral canvas of events. The pain doesn't come from the chronicle, it comes from the story. The practice is a powerful mental exercise. Take one event from your past that still holds a charge. On one side of a page, write down only the chronicle, the bare observable facts that a camera would have recorded. On the other side, write down the narrative, the story you tell yourself about what those facts mean. Look at the two. See the space between them. In that space lies your freedom. The narrative is not the event, and if you wrote it once, you can write it again. And the third, most potent tool, speak in a new grammar. The philosopher Eugen Rosenstock-Huessy believed that authentic speech is not something that describes the past, but something that creates the future. It's a response to a call. To change your story, you must change the very grammar of your response to life. Let's make this concrete. The grammar of the victim is passive. Why is this happening to me? The grammar of the author is active. What is this asking of me? Or how can I use this? A subtle shift, but it moves you from the passenger seat to the driver's seat of your life. The practice here is to choose one grammatical shift and live with it for a day. Instead of saying, I can't, ask, how can I? Instead of, this is a problem, state, this is a challenge I am learning to navigate. This is not about lying to yourself. It's about consciously choosing to speak from the perspective of the hero you wish to become. You are not just describing a new reality, you are casting the spell that summons it into being. But there is a fourth tool, a master practice that doesn't just edit the script, but expands the very soul of the author. The tools we've discussed allow you to refine your story. This one enriches the universe from which you write it. It is the deliberate pursuit of wisdom, what we might call the intellectual life as a creative act. Your imagination cannot create in a vacuum. The depth of the stories you can write for yourself is directly proportional to the depth of the ideas you have absorbed. If your imaginative diet consists only of the fleeting dramas of daily life and the cacophony of social media, your soul's vocabulary will be impoverished, and you will be stuck rewriting the same shallow, reactive plots. The great secret, as taught by thinkers like Sertillanges, is to treat the pursuit of knowledge not as a hobby, but as a sacred vocation, to cultivate an intellectual life. This is no mechanical exercise of pausing to meditate after each paragraph. It is the deliberate attention and reverence you bring to the act of reading. It is a form of deep, ongoing contemplation, where you treat a great book not as a container of data, but as a living mind with which you enter into dialogue. The practice is this: engage in the great conversation of humanity. Immerse yourself with intention and focus in the great classics, not just literature, but philosophy, history, the sacred texts of all traditions. Read the Odyssey to understand the soul's journey home. Study the Stoics to learn the anatomy of resilience. Contemplate the Bhagavad Gita to witness the conflict between duty and spirit. Over months and years of such engagement, something extraordinary happens. Your worldview, your cosmovision expands. You begin to recognize the archetypal patterns, the forces of the soul, not as abstract concepts, but as living actors on the stage of your own life and of history. You see how diverse existential situations, cosmic cycles, and social roles repeat in different guises across the centuries. This is not a hunt for facts, but for wisdom, for sapience. With every profound work you integrate, you add new colors to your palette, new instruments to your orchestra. Your ability to interpret your own life becomes more subtle and powerful. You cease to be a character reacting to a small, limited script and become a conscious co-creator, informed by the vast, tragic beauty of all human experience. And from that vast, enriched inner landscape, you can finally draw the ink to write a story worthy of a universe. Excellent. The practical foundation is laid. Now, we ascend to the conceptual peak. So, we have the tools. We can become the conscious authors of our own myths, transforming the lead of our inherited stories into the gold of a chosen destiny. This is a profound power. But here, at the heart of the labyrinth, we encounter a door we never expected. And on it is a single unnerving question. Who exactly is the author? We've worked to take control of the I that narrates our life. But what if this I, the very protagonist we've been trying to save, the hero we're building a new story for, is itself just another character, the most convincing, the most intimate, but a character nonetheless. Imagine an author so lost in his own novel that he forgets he is writing it. He weeps when his hero suffers. He rages at the villain. He feels the crushing weight of every setback, forgetting that his hand is the one moving the pen. He has become a prisoner of his own creation. What would it take for him to awaken? He wouldn't need to write a happier ending for his hero. He would need to remember that he is the one sitting in the quiet study, not the one trapped in the ink and paper. This is the great reviravolta of the soul. The goal of the great work may not be to write a better story, but to awaken from the story itself. And what if time is not a line, but a field? What if every possible story, the tragedy of your past, the comedy you hope for, the ironic dead end you fear, already exists, complete, like finished novels on the infinite shelves of a cosmic library? What if your consciousness is not a traveler moving through the book page by page, but a reader whose attention illuminates one page at a time? If that were true, then your past is not gone. It's just a chapter you keep rereading. Your future is not unwritten. It's a chapter you haven't opened yet, and the story you tell yourself right now in this moment. That's the spell that determines which book you pull from the shelf. This tireless narrator we've been calling the author, it is the most cunning character of all. It is the ego, the master storyteller. It has built a persona, a history, a set of scars and trophies, and presented this collage to you as your identity. It is the king of a minuscule kingdom, your conscious mind, who has convinced you his small patch of land is the entire cosmos, and that the history of his reign is the only history that matters. And the story this king tells, the one he insists, is the only story. The linear cause and effect biography you call My Life, that is but one book in an infinite collection. Have you ever felt déjà vu? A sudden, inexplicable familiarity with a new moment, or a synchronicity so perfect it feels scripted? What if these are not glitches in the brain, but moments where your consciousness, the true reader, accidentally turns 2 pages at once? A glimpse of a chapter you haven't lived yet, or a footnote from a story running parallel to your own. This reframes the entire project of self-improvement. The task is not to painstakingly erase the tragic chapters of your past, sentence by sentence. The past is never erased. It is simply a volume you can choose to place back on the shelf. The freedom is not in rewriting, but in re-choosing, in realizing you were never bound to read only one book. You are not the character trapped in a tragic narrative. You are the silent, spacious awareness that can, at any moment, choose to pick up a comedy, a romance, or an epic adventure. The ultimate question then is not, how do I fix my story, but which of my infinite stories is worthy of my attention right now? Because where your attention goes, your reality flows. This realization is both liberating and terrifying. If you are not the character but the reader, then the entire game changes. The old excuses, the familiar blames, they dissolve. You can no longer say, this is just who I am, or I am a product of my past. That is the character speaking, defending the integrity of its script. The reader knows better. The first implication is the weight of true responsibility. It is no longer about the responsibility to fix your life, but the far greater responsibility of choosing your reality. Every moment becomes a profound act of selection. Which story will you energize with your focus? Will you dwell on the narrative of grievance and injustice, meticulously rereading every painful chapter? Or will you place your attention on the story of gratitude, of growth, of quiet resilience? They both exist. They are both true in the library of potential. The universe does not care which book you read. It is the library, not the librarian. Your attention is the only force that brings a story off the shelf and into the vivid, felt experience of your life. The second implication is the redefinition of forgiveness. To forgive someone is no longer a moral duty to pardon a debt. It is a profoundly practical act of authorship. To hold a grudge is to choose to remain a character in a story where you are a perpetual victim. You are shackling yourself to another character, forcing them to play the villain in your tragic drama over and over again. To forgive is to close that book, to place it back on the shelf and declare, I am no longer available to read from this script. It is not for them, it is for you. It is the ultimate act of creative freedom, and this leads to the most challenging implication of all. You are the sole curator of the meaning of your life. Nothing that has happened to you has any inherent meaning. None. The events are a chronicle, ink on a page. It is you, the reader, who breathes meaning into them. A traumatic event can be the origin story of a villain, a victim, or a healer. A failure can be the final chapter of a tragedy, or the inciting incident of an epic comeback. The event does not determine the story, you do. The question then becomes impossibly large. In a universe of infinite narratives, which one will you declare sacred? This curatorship of meaning extends beyond your personal history and into the very fabric of your relationships. When you interact with another person, you are not meeting a fixed entity. You are meeting a fellow library of infinite stories, and the story you choose to read in them can profoundly influence which story they choose to live for you. Do you cast them as the rival, the obstacle, the disappointment? Your language, your assumptions, your energy will constantly invite them to play that pre-written role. Your narrative demands a villain, and so you subtly audition everyone you meet for the part. But what if you chose to look for the story of the hidden hero in them, the narrative of their unspoken potential? This doesn't mean being naive. It means being a more skilled reader. It is the understanding that you are co-creating a story with everyone you meet. The quality of that shared narrative is a shared responsibility. Funny how the oldest advice in the world is to know thyself. It seems that's still the hardest final boss to beat, because knowing the self is not about memorizing the biography of the character you've been playing. It's about recognizing the silent, expansive space from which all stories arise. This awakening carries an ethical imperative. If our focus selects realities, then what are we energizing on a collective scale? The stories we consume from the media, the gossip we engage in, the cynical narratives we repeat about the world. These are not passive acts. They are incantations. Each click, each share, each repeated outrage is a vote cast for a particular version of reality. We are all co-authors of the human epic, whether we know it or not. The question is no longer just, what story am I writing for myself? But what story am I helping to write for us? So here we stand, in the silent, infinite library of the cosmos. We arrived as characters, trapped in a single dog-eared book we thought was the whole of reality. We learned the craft of the author, ready to seize the pen and write a better ending. And then, we were handed the final, shocking revelation. We are not the character, nor even the author. We are the reader. The silent, witnessing consciousness that gives life to the ink. What then is the purpose of this strange and wondrous play? If we can choose any story, what is the ultimate story to choose? Perhaps the goal of life isn't to find the right answers, but to learn how to live with the most beautiful questions. Perhaps the point is not to escape into a perfect, painless narrative of endless summer. Perhaps the true masterpiece of the soul is written when the reader, fully aware of its freedom, consciously chooses to enter a challenging story. A story of growth, of overcoming, of learning to find light in the deepest shadows. Not because it is forced to, but because it knows that the most profound meaning is forged in the crucible of a worthy struggle. The journey of the mystery hunter is not about finding a final truth, a single book that explains everything. It is a path of becoming a better reader, of learning to hold the comedy and the tragedy, the irony and the romance with equal grace. It is the realization that you are not here to simply live a life, but to inhabit a myth, to choose a story so deeply, so courageously, that the universe itself leans in to listen. The only question left is, what great story will you make sacred with your attention? Liked this journey? Hit subscribe for more mysteries. And that's our hunt for now, a wild mix of documented history and tantalizing what-ifs based on bibliographical sources. What do you think?